Good morning. Welcome to this service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, also known as UUFCC. I am Laura Anderson, the worship associate this morning. My pronouns are she, her. I am a cisgender 66-year-old, curvy, short, Caucasian woman. I have shoulder-length silver and lavender hair. Today I'm wearing a yellow flowered sundress. As you have heard, we start our service each week by singing an invitation to gather together, even as we are scattered in many different places, and whether the sacred space be virtual or live. This service is being broadcast live on YouTube and will be available as a recording on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. I wish to express gratitude for all who make this service possible, and there are many. We have technology support, greeters, and singers. We have folks who created and printed the order of service, supported the repair and decorating of the sanctuary. We have coffee makers. Thank you also, Jerry, for musical support and piano playing this morning. I would like to thank Dennis for being our speaker this morning. In a world that sometimes seems harsh, everyone is welcome here. Whatever your faith or the country of your heritage, you are welcome here. Whoever you are, whomever you love, you are welcome here. Whether you are relatively new to our community or have been an active member for decades, you are welcome here. We are glad you chose this congregation as your place of worship this morning. I trust you will find our service meaningful, and if not, come again next week or the week after, and again the week after that. We are a lay-led fellowship and enjoy a variety of speakers. If you are new to us today, and if you are comfortable doing so, please stand in body or spirit and wave. If you're at home and you're new, we can't see you wave, but we welcome you. If you would like to learn more about our fellowship, you can visit our website, uufcc.org. The prelude this morning is The Gift of Love. It is a gift to us from the choir and from Jerry.
Number 34. Number 34.
Are we singing also?
No. Oh, sorry.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are written by Dillman Baker Sorrells. For holy days on which we recall the old stories, we light the flame. For Passover, which reminds us of the courage and strength of those seeking freedom in the past, we light the flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is our greatest challenge, we light the flame. For gathering today in this sacred space, we light the flame. For the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for our future, to be alive in our present. Now, while those with us online light their chalice, and Doug comes forward to light our chalice here, please join me in reciting the affirmation that is printed in our order of service. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you, Doug. The Unitarian Universalist minister Max Kutz once wrote, "We need a celebration that speaks the spring-inspired word about life and death, about us as we live and die, through all the cycling seasons, days, and years. We need the sense of deity to crack our own hard, brown December husks and push light out of inner tombs and outer pain. Unless we move the seasons of the self, and spring can come for us, the winter will go on, and Easter will remain a myth, and life will never come again, despite the fact of spring." On this morning, when our Christian siblings celebrate Easter, may we open our hearts and minds to all of the spring-inspired truths our human kin have found, and that we and our world so desperately need to hear. Please rise in body and or spirit for hymn number 121, "We'll Build a Land," in the gray hymnal number 121. We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys, sorrows, and life milestones by entering them into the Book of Life. These events are sacred, hallowing the living of our days. Messages can be written in the red book at the back of the sanctuary or emailed to bookoflife@uufcc.org. After I've completed reading, we will enter into a moment of silence, followed by the choir singing meditative music, Bella Mama. Catherine and Bill's 5-year-old grandson was transported by ambulance yesterday to the hospital in Fort Myers. Complications of his tonsils removed a few days ago before he came. Please keep us in your thoughts. Janet writes, I received a call from my wind adjuster this week advising they were not going to pay to replace my roof or any structural damage to my house. They agreed that my roof needs to be replaced and that there is structural damage, but that it must have been caused by something other than Hurricane Ian. Despite the fact that my house is only 5 years old, and I provided both before and after pictures. We've retained an attorney, and I sincerely hope that this gets resolved before another hurricane arrives. We sincerely hope that as well. I am not feeling very safe or confident. May we hold these and our unspoken joys and sorrows in our hearts. May we also hold one another in love and tenderness so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. Okay, that wasn't very meditative, but it was great. And I'm looking forward to the time where I can hear you sing when Jerry's not dancing in front of you. Now, I don't know if you can pull it off without the dancing. Our speaker this morning is Dennis Shaw. You may know Dennis as a person who steps in to assist folks in need. Dennis spent many years working on the grounds of the fellowship here. Some of you remember how the front looked before we had our bromeliad garden. You may know Dennis because he helped you in some way, and I know he has helped many of us. You may know Dennis as a leader in our community because he has held many leadership positions and now serves as the Board of Trustees president. You may know, I'll just shut up and let Dennis speak.
My presentation has had many titles in the process of writing it. I finally settled on Journeying with Jesus. Before I begin reading, I want to remind you that Unitarian Universalists believe in the free and open pulpit. This means that with the permission of the worship committee, I am free to speak about my truths and my memories. But these are my thoughts, and they may not be in harmony with the experience of other Unitarian Universalists. But in our faith, that's okay. I will begin my reflections with short Easter stories from the first decade of my life. During the 1950s, the Shaw family lived in a small two-story white frame house just outside the town limits of Elizabeth, Pennsylvania. The town's economy was based on steel and coal. Elizabeth is now a very small river town, 20 miles south as the crow flies, from the convergence of the Monongahela and Allegheny rivers at Point Park in downtown Pittsburgh. There they form the mighty Ohio River. From the 3-acre paradise that my parents created on Patterson Hill, we overlook numerous lines of railroad tracks, the river filled with tugboats pushing rows of barges of coal through filthy waters. In the distance were rows of puffing industrial smokestacks. The night skies were always red. Springs were eagerly welcomed and celebrated in this environment. Spring transformed the browns and grays of the harsh winters into a green world complete with private pathways through wooded hillsides, a large vegetable garden, pasture for 2 goats and stray chickens, a grape arbor tunnel, and apple and cherry trees. Patterson Hill was the perfect place to grow up, with one serious exception. We had to breathe the very polluted air. Easter served as a highlight of those spring days. The focus was on the new life that was exploding all around us, and that Jesus had risen from the dead, thus saving our souls. Easter came with numerous traditions, many of them direct descendants of pagan fertility symbols. My favorite was dyeing Easter eggs. On Saturday morning, Mom would cover the kitchen table with an oilcloth, place a large bowl of hard-boiled eggs at the center, and then give Billy, Bobby, and me sturdy glass containers filled with bright, warm, vinegary-smelling primary dye with copper wire holders. Jimmy and Tommy were so young that Mom and Dad had to physically help them through the process. Copying my father, I covered each egg with pictographs using crayons on warm eggshells. I quickly learned that if I double dipped the fragile eggs into the two primary colors, the shells would turn purple or orange or green. However, triple dipping would produce yucky grays and browns. This was my first formal art lesson. Magically, many of the eggs on display found their way into our shredded fluorescent pink cellophane-lined Easter baskets, along with a hollow milk chocolate rabbit, marshmallow chicks, and lots of shiny jelly beans. Following Easter Sunday church services at the Calvinistic First Presbyterian Church of Elizabeth, we gathered for an elaborate ham dinner with all the trimmings. The highlight of the meal was dessert, Mom's round grated coconut-covered bunny face cake. It had long ears, a bow tie, and pink jelly bean eyes. Following dinner, we revisited our treat-filled baskets and tried to interact with Granddad Shaw, while Dad hid the dyed eggs in the front and backyards. Then it was time for the annual Easter egg hunt. I have such happy memories of these family interactions, despite the egg salad sandwich that appeared in my lunchbox the next day. I confess, even at a very young age, I had a real problem accepting the idea that a little rabbit, the Easter bunny, was actually the source of the treats we found on Easter morning. My problem was related to the fact that Dad hated the rabbits that feasted on his garden. He actively, without feeling the need to shelter his children, eradicated them. I won't go into the gory details, but more than once I verbally worried that Dad might unintentionally murder the Easter bunny. He assured me, explaining that he personally knew the famous rabbit and would never cause him harm. Nonetheless, I wondered. Then I just could not imagine how the Easter bunny carried all that candy. Unlike Santa Claus, the bunny didn't have elves or reindeer, and the idea of a rabbit pulling a sleigh was ridiculous. After my best kindergarten friend, Johnny, shared a graphic description of how the rabbit filled our baskets, I stopped believing. During my pre- and adolescent years, the focus of Easter changed radically. The fluorescent marshmallow chicks, chocolate bunnies, and jelly beans gradually melted into the passion, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus. The crucifixion became a somber, emotionally charged reality in my formative brain, especially after I attended an annual 3.5-hour Good Friday concert at the largest and newest church in town. Every white Protestant church choir took turns presenting their most mournful renditions of traditional Good Friday anthems and hymns. I left this competition feeling deep sadness and shame. The following Easter morning, the hollow chocolate bunny I expected to find in a basket had been replaced with a solid dark chocolate cross. I don't like dark chocolate, and it seemed a sacrilege to eat it. Throughout elementary school, my parents' peers at the First Presbyterian Church frequently commented on my obvious faith and even piety, and predicted that someday I would become a Presbyterian minister. Every night prior to prayers, I would read from a thick illustrated children's book that retold Jesus' parables. By fourth grade, I had transitioned to the King James Bible. Much of what I read was confusing and even boring, but I did understand the numerous stories and loved reading and rereading the parables attributed to Jesus. The first monumental event that undermined my Christian innocence occurred when I was almost 13. Earlier that year, I had become an official member of the First Presbyterian Church. While my father, the ruling elder, the minister, and other elders were preparing for communion, which would be the focus of the morning's worship service, I was across the hall arguing with my Sunday school teacher, Carl Williamson. The argument was about the existence of hell. I insisted that a loving God would not send the souls of the unsaved to eternal damnation in a torture chamber of fire and brimstone. Mr. Williamson became so outraged by my persistent heresy that he marched me across the hall into the minister's study. There, interrupting a prayer, he insisted that my membership be revoked for blasphemy. My father wisely informed Carl that he would sternly address the issue that afternoon, and then tossed me the keys to our green Ford ranch wagon, which I dropped. I was told to wait in the car. Instead, I walked the sidewalks of Elizabeth, anticipating my severe punishment and deepening my belief that hell occurred while we were alive, not after we died. On the ride from the church to home, I was assigned the center position between my parents on the Ford's front bench seat. Fortunately, Mom had already been informed of the morning's unpleasantries, so there was no need to reiterate the embarrassing details. By the time Dad shifted into third gear, he began speaking. "Denny," he said, "I'm not upset with your rejection of the concept of hell. Honestly, I find the concept difficult to swallow given Jesus' focus on love. But what does upset me is how you disrespected your teacher. I will read your apology to Mr. Williamson this evening, and you will compose it in your room this afternoon." Well, I didn't have a word to describe my fierce rejection of hell. I now realized that at age 13, I had become a Universalist. I've always loved to draw and paint. During my early teen years, I would climb the hill behind our new suburban home and sketch landscapes, and then tiny life forms that grew within a square inch of soil. One beautiful, breezy spring evening, while viewing the sunset over the pastures of the neighboring farm, I experienced a rare gift. I was suddenly aware, through all of my heightened senses, of an energy that flowed through each leaf, blade of grass, wildflower, bug, bird, and me. At the center of the experience was the crystal clear awareness that we are one. Suddenly, the cool breeze calmed, and I was overwhelmed with a sense of peace, wonder, and joy. I had experienced a oneness with all the life forms that surrounded me. As the light of that amazing day faded, I walked down the hill in tears. I knew I had been blessed. Years later, I shared this story with a psychologist. He attributed the experience to raging hormones and dismissed my insistence that this life-changing event was a gift from God. It was at that moment, during that very session, I realized that I no longer believed in the Trinity. And while I still didn't have a name for my faith, I had become a Unitarian. My understanding of Jesus has to a great extent been formed by my frequent revisits to parables attributed to him in the books of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. These three are called the Synoptic Gospels because they include many of the same stories, often in similar sequence and in similar or sometimes identical wording. A parable is a tale about a simple, common subject to illustrate a more profound moral lesson. The source definition of the word parable means placement side by side for the purpose of comparison. The parables form approximately 1/3 of the teachings attributed to Jesus, and there are 33 of them in the Synoptic Gospels. They are simple and memorable stories that teach lessons. But while parables seem simple, the messages they convey are deep and central to Jesus' teachings. Often they refer to simple events, everyday events, such as a woman baking bread or a man knocking on his neighbor's door at night. They contain internal analogies of major religious themes, including the importance of prayer and the meaning of love. My favorite parable is the story of the Good Samaritan. It was read during the Easter service at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Asheville, North Carolina, in 1977, my first Easter as a member there. The minister was the widely respected Reverend Dr. William Hammond. Under his brilliant ministry, I finally found a name for my faith, Unitarian Universalism. I'm going to read the story of the Good Samaritan on this cloudy Easter morning. I'm motivated by the desire to honor a wonderful minister who I knew so many years ago, and to celebrate another Easter as a Unitarian Universalist. But first, I need to give you some background information on the characters in the story. The Samaritans embraced a religion that was a mixture of Judaism and the religion of the inhabitants of Samaria, with whom they married. The Israelites considered the Samaritans idolatrous, and they despised them. So the Good Samaritan was someone who Jesus' audiences would literally hate. Another character in the parable is a Levite. Levites were the male descendants through the paternal line of Levi, the third son of Jacob and Leah. The tribe of Levi served particular and important religious duties for the Israelites, including playing music, opening and closing gates, and standing guard. They were also responsible for packing up and transporting the tabernacle whenever the Israelites traveled to a new camp. I will read the story of the Good Samaritan from a contemporary edition of the Bible called The Message. The story is found in the book of Luke, chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. Just then, a religious scholar stood up with a question to test Jesus. "Teacher, what do I need to do to get eternal life?" He answered, "What's written in God's law? How do you interpret it?" And he said, "That you love the Lord your God with all of your passion and prayer and muscle and intelligence, and you love your neighbor as well as you do yourself." "Good answer," said Jesus. "Do it and you will live." Looking for a loophole, the scholar asked, "And just how would you define your neighbor?" Jesus answered by telling a story. There once was a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. On the way, he was attacked by robbers. They took his clothes, beat him up, and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest was on his way down the same road, but when he saw him, he angled to the other side. Then a religious Levite man showed up. He also avoided the injured man. A Samaritan traveling the road came upon him. When he saw the man's condition, his heart went out to him. He gave him first aid, disinfected and bandaged his wounds. Then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him to an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning, he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, "Take good care of him. If it costs any more, put it on my bill. I'll pay you when I come back." What do you think? Which of the 3 became a neighbor to the man who was attacked by robbers? The one who treated him kindly, the religious scholar responded. Jesus said, "Go and do the same." Finally, I want to affirm that I am a Unitarian Universalist that is very grateful for my Christian upbringing, and especially the parables of Jesus. Throughout my life, these stories have taught me extremely valuable lessons that created rich soil in which to grow my faith, values, and morals. Have a peaceful and joyous Easter. Amen.
Thank you, Dennis. Please rise in body or spirit for the song "For the Beauty of the Earth," number 21 in the gray hymnal.
Oh,
In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. To this end, your offerings support the ministry of this fellowship, whether by pledge or donation, and may be offered online. There are several ways you can give. You can drop your donation in the baskets that will be passed around by the greeters. You can mail a check to the office, or you can use the Venmo app. Payments there are identified as UUFCC offering. Whatever method you use, please note the purpose of your offering. If it is for a pledge or a special helping, such as today, the second helping. Today is the second Sunday of the month, and as is our tradition, we will take a second collection. Today's offerings will go to support the work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. If you have been a Unitarian Universalist for some time, you probably know the story of Reverend Waite Still and Martha Sharp. If you have been around UUFCC for a few months, you probably know about the CAPAS program. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee is to advance human rights and social justice around the world, partnering with those who confront unjust power structures and mobilizing to challenge oppressive policies. Their work, our work, is grounded in the belief that all people have inherent power and dignity. In 1939, the Reverend Waite Still Sharp and his wife Martha were in Czechoslovakia. It was a time when Nazi Germany invaded. The Sharps assisted many Jewish refugees and political dissidents escape Europe safely, more than 2,000, while working in Prague, Marseille, and Lisbon. This was the first work of the service committee. The Project CAPAS, Congregational Accompaniment Project for Asylum Seekers, continues to support migrants by supporting groups as they welcome asylum seekers. In December, our fellowship received a matching grant of $5,000 from the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee to support a Venezuelan family seeking asylum here. Please support this organization that has, for over 80 years, been helping to advance human rights and uplift the inherent dignity of people around the world through grassroots collaborations. If you are with us for the first time, do not feel obligated to give your gift. Your presence is our gift. We will now receive the offering. We gratefully receive these offerings and thank Janet, Irene, and Jerry for the offertory music. It is now time to highlight UUFCC's events and activities this week. Remember to check your weekly UUFCC updates, which includes a calendar and links for connecting via Zoom or in person and descriptions of all kinds of activities coming up. Make sure that you also check our updated website. Let's see. Did you notice we have new art on the wall? The art from the 2D art studio that meets at Punta Gorda's Visual Arts Center is now on display in the sanctuary. The members of the studio are holding a reception this Friday from 4 to 6. All are invited and encouraged to come and meet the artists. We have a box that resides over by Mary Jane's office. It is a repository for cards, greetings for Peg Stoddard and Stunkard, and they will be delivered by Roxanne at the end of the month. At the beginning of May. Today, the Social Justice Committee will meet after the service on the porch. Lori has an announcement for us.
Well, I had a great introduction to this from Laura talking about the UUSC committee. As most of you are aware, we are now and have been supporting an immigrant family through that committee and their Congregational Accompaniment Program for Asylum Seekers, which is CAPAS. You keep hearing that thrown around a lot. We are proud to be one of 40 congregations in the country, UU congregations, that are doing this very same thing and undertaking this vital and difficult role in giving life to our values and our beliefs. This family of 3 who are here with a legal status, this young mother and her 2 young children have been working hard to adjust to their new culture, new schools, new language, and doing that with the support of the core team. There's a few of the core team members here today. Can you raise your hands or stand up or something? Linda, Nancy, Joanne, helping with the English, Laura, Ted, who else? Betty's in the kitchen, right, okay, and there's a few others too. So with them and the other dedicated volunteers within this community, and several of you are here too, and a few other organizations, including their voluntary legal help, the core team has also gathered financial support from our community and many of you here today through grants and by reaching out to other nonprofits, including the United Church of Christ locally. Today, I'm here to give you an update on our next steps as a congregation and what our support needs to look like in this coming year. We've been looking at a 2-year project here. Our members, Trish and Kathy, are coming to an end of their year commitment in providing this family with housing and additional adjustment needs and most of the transportation for this first year. Near the end of this year, we will need a new housing option. So put your thinking caps on and your hearts open, okay? Our first choice would be if anyone has or knows someone who has a rental home or part of their home to share, they'd be willing to do that or rent to this family. We do have some financial needs to support the volunteer hosts. They're familiar already with the Northport area, but other locations are being considered, including moving out to other cities. So we need to be aware and really be searching for this. Our second choice is subsidized or low-income housing, which we've already started to look at. Those options are few and far between, as you can all well imagine, not only here, but in many states. Some of the searches we've been looking at, there's like 14 within all of the United States of certain areas. It's like, wow. Next thing we need are some of our drivers have flown up north Schedules are shifting. School is nearing the end. We very much need additional drivers now to school, to events, to camps, to appointments. And you don't have to worry if you haven't done it before because the mother accompanies the child in a car. So that's not a concern you have to be. And if you know Myrna, see her about that, or come and see any of the people that were on the core team that we called out for any of these ideas. Finally, for the most flexible commitment, that would be hosting the children for outings. Play in the park, go for recreational trips, events, meals at your homes, or somebody else's homes, craft projects, pool, be creative. Get to know another UU friend and do it together. Plan an activity together with the kids. Most of us have been very frustrated lately with all of the things going on that we cannot control or do something about. Here is your opportunity. Step forward. Make a difference in an area where you can make a change. We need your help. Please see one of us with your thoughts, your ideas. Thank you. Oops, I won't steal those.
Thank you, Lori. Let's see. I think that is the announcements. Does anybody have other announcements? Okay. The closing words are a responsive reading in the gray hymnal. Would you assist me? Number 628, Rolling Away the Stone. Your part is the part in italics. 628. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, worries. In the tomb of the soul, we take refuge from the world and its enemies. In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness. Sometimes it prepares us for experience. Sometimes it insulates us from life. Sometimes this new life gives us time to feel the pain of the world and reach out to heal others. Sometimes it numbs us and locks us up with our own concerns. In this season where light and dark balance the day, we seek balance for ourselves. May it be so. Doug, would you assist us again and extinguish our chalice? And while he is doing that, please join me in our weekly litany, again printed in the order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Go now in peace. And finally, please join the choir in singing our final hymn, Go Lift It Up. It is in the teal hymnal, number 1057.